Why women ignore the men they desire. A cold psychological autopsy. For more content, check out our dark Patreon. Time forces a man to ration his speech, so this will be the only analysis I put out this week. I've been working around the kind of environments where attention is a scarce resource. Illegal rooms, back entrances, places where a wrong read of someone's intent could cost you more than pride. You learn things there that no classroom can teach. You learn how people conceal longing under indifference and fear under silence. You learn that desire isn't expressed directly. It leaks out at the weakest seam, often in the form of avoidance. I uploaded a longer breakdown of this on my Patreon, the one about high-impulse, attention-driven behavior. But the essence is simple. People don't ignore what they don't care about. They ignore what threatens their balance. Women who withdraw from the men they want aren't acting irrationally. They're acting according to a nervous system shaped long before they met the man in question. Attraction destabilizes them, and destabilization feels like danger. Emotional exposure is a kind of vulnerability many of them were punished for in childhood, either through inconsistent affection or unpredictable caretakers. The body remembers that. The body reacts faster than thought. When a woman feels drawn toward a man, her mind begins anticipating the cost of that attraction long before she can articulate it. Distancing becomes a way to preempt the imagined loss, the imagined rejection, the imagined imbalance. Indifference, or the performance of it, restores equilibrium. Silence becomes a protective barrier. The man she desires disrupts her internal architecture, so she retreats to rebuild it. Meanwhile, a man who holds no value to her emotional core can be spoken to freely because his presence doesn't activate anything. He doesn't trigger old injuries or future risks. He has no power to wound her, so she can behave casually in his proximity. Her relaxed engagement with him isn't connection. It's the absence of threat. I saw this dynamic countless times in the places where I used to work, surrounded by people who operated more on instinct than reflection. There was a girl named Lyra who frequented a rundown pool hall where I handled business on the side. She had a habit of lingering near a man she admired, a quiet regular named Soren. But on the nights he tried speaking to her, she acted as if his presence irritated her. She'd turn her body away, pretend not to hear him, even walk outside to smoke where he couldn't follow. Yet when a loud, inconsequential drifter approached her, she entertained him with slow, unbothered conversation, flicking ash with an easy rhythm. The drifter meant nothing to her. Soren represented a possibility her mind didn't feel prepared for. Her avoidance wasn't rejection. It was fear, masquerading as nonchalance. The mechanism behind this is older than culture. From an evolutionary standpoint, the cost of choosing the wrong partner was high. The brain learned to associate strong attraction with strong risk. A man who provokes genuine interest also provokes the fear of losing him. That fear doesn't announce itself. It hides under the surface, beneath excuses, delays, and manufactured indifference. The mind frames withdrawal as a rational defense. Better to silence oneself than expose a desire that may not be reciprocated. For the man on the receiving end, the behavior feels inverted. He sees her interacting easily with men who lack the qualities she claims to value. He misreads her openness with them as evidence that she prefers them. He doesn't understand that desire doesn't create ease, it creates pressure. The men she doesn't want allow her to keep her footing. The man she does want forces her to measure every move, every word. He becomes a mirror that reflects her insecurities back at her. When the reflection feels intolerable, she hides. These patterns intensify in women shaped by unstable attachment. If childhood taught them that affection is inconsistent, their adult relationships will follow the same pattern. Intimacy disrupts their internal order. They crave connection, but fear its consequences. When they encounter a man who matters, the conflict between longing and self-protection becomes too sharp to negotiate directly. Avoidance becomes easier than confronting the fracture inside themselves. In the underground world, where emotions were liabilities, I watched women like this try to preserve their autonomy by retreating into silence. One memory stands out: a woman named Rena, who worked at a place that pretended to be a bar, but functioned as something closer to a marketplace of desperation. She once told me, while half drunk and staring at a broken neon sign, that she avoided the only man she'd ever cared about because he saw too much. She didn't want a witness to the parts of herself she preferred to keep buried. In her mind, emotional attraction made her visible, and visibility felt like exposure. She interacted with men she had no interest in, with the same detached calm she used while counting bills. All mechanical gestures, no risk of being known. When a woman ignores the man she desires, she is shielding the most vulnerable part of herself from potential harm. Her silence is less about him and more about her internal equilibrium. She will often act more confident with the men she doesn't want because they offer her nothing to lose. Emotional distance gives her control. Emotional investment takes it away. From the man's perspective, the question becomes how to navigate such behavior without degrading himself or chasing shadows. A woman's withdrawal cannot be solved through pursuit. Pressure amplifies her avoidance. Demands for clarity trigger her defensive systems. The only effective response is maintaining one's own equilibrium while observing her behavior over time. A man who continues living according to his own momentum becomes easier for her nervous system to approach. When he refrains from closing the distance for her, she can step forward if her conflict resolves. If it doesn't, her silence becomes its own answer. Actions rooted in steadiness provide clarity. If her avoidance comes from internal conflict, she will stabilize and re-engage when the pressure inside her subsides. If her avoidance is genuine disinterest, she will remain absent. Either way, the man retains his own stability, and the truth of the situation reveals itself without force. Human behavior around desire has always been governed by fear of loss, fear of inadequacy, fear of being seen. Women who ignore the men they care about are not confused. They are protecting the fractured parts of themselves. That connection threatens to expose. Women who speak freely with the men they don't want are not signaling interest. They're gravitating toward interactions that cost them nothing. In the places where I learned these truths, people never said what they meant. They acted out their fears in silence, in glances, in disappearances. And if you paid attention long enough, you understood that longing rarely looks like closeness. More often, it looks like retreat. If you've spent any time around damaged people, which is most people, you begin to see this pattern as inevitable.